The mansion was vast and magnificent, yet it never felt warm. Its marble corridors echoed with silence, a silence you had grown used to ever since you were brought here as Jungkook's wife. Each corner was spotless, each chandelier glittered, but beneath the luxury there was an emptiness, a coldness that matched the man who ruled the place. Every evening dinner was served in the grand dining hall. The table stretched long, carved from dark mahogany, yet only two seats were ever occupied, his at the head, yours on the side. That night you sat quietly with your plate, your hands resting in your lap, waiting for him to speak. He didn't. Jungkook was scrolling through his phone, his sharp jawline set in stone, his eyes scanning emails as if they were far more important than your presence. The clink of his fork against porcelain was the only sound that dared disturb the stillness. You cleared your throat softly, trying to ease the tension. The chef tried a new recipe tonight. It's a bit different, but I thought you might like it. His eyes remained glued to the screen. His voice was flat, void of emotion. I don't have time for experiments on my plate. Tell them to prepare what I eat. Nothing more, nothing less. You froze, then forced a small smile, nodding lightly. Of course, silence returned, heavier than before. You wanted to tell him about your day, to share even the smallest detail, but his posture rigid, uninterested, warned you not to bother. He didn't look at you once throughout dinner. A few days later, in the tea lounge, you tried again. You carefully carried his tea tray, every step cautious, the cup balanced delicately, but as you placed it down, your hand trembled slightly. A single drop spilled, staining the white tablecloth. The sound of his phone being set down was sharp. His eyes lifted immediately, cold and piercing. Unbelievable. Do you seriously not know how to pour tea without making a mess? Your breath hitched. I'm sorry, it's slipped. I'll clean it right away. He leaned back in his chair, voice low and cutting as though he was speaking to an incompetent employee. Stop apologizing, Wine. I don't need sorry. I need you to do it right the first time. Is that so hard? You lowered your head, fingers tightening around the edge of the tray. It won't happen again. Make sure it doesn't. I don't tolerate carelessness. You nodded, patting the inside of your cheek to stop the sting of tears. He didn't notice, or maybe he did, or simply didn't care. He picked his phone back up, already forgetting the conversation, while you silently cleaned the stain with trembling hands. Another evening, gala awaited. You had spent hours getting ready, carefully choosing the gown he had approved, making sure you didn't look like an embarrassment beside him. By the time you entered the car, you noticed his jaw clenched as he checked his watch. At the ballroom, the glaring crowd surrounded him immediately, board members, investors, executives, who all greeted him with reverence. He leaned down slightly toward you, his voice firm and hushed, but each word sharp enough to cut. You were late again. Your lips parted in protest, but his expression silenced you. I just needed a few more minutes. I didn't want to look unprepared. He exhaled sharply, eyes narrowing. Looking flawless is pointless. If you can't respect my time, do you have any idea how it looks when my wife can't even arrive with me on schedule? People don't just see you, they see me. You swallowed the lump in your throat, lowering your gaze. I'll be more careful next time. I'm sorry. He straightened his posture, the conversation already dismissed in his mind. His hand, which had briefly rested on your back, dropped away, leaving you standing alone as he strode ahead to greet the crowd. You forced a smile, masking the ache inside, and followed silently. Night after night, this was your existence walking beside him, but never with him. Enduring his sharp words, his cold glances, his silence that spoke louder than anything else. And though it hurt, you stayed quiet, convincing yourself that maybe, just maybe, the ice around his heart would one day crack. The mansion was clocked in its usual silence that evening, the kind of silence that weighed on your chest and reminded you daily that this place was a palace, not a home. You had just finished arranging a vase of lilies in the living room, their gentle fragrance trying and failing to breathe warm into the cold marble halls. Jungkook sat across the room, sunk into the leather sofa like a man carved from stone. His suit jacket had been discarded on the armrest, his white shirt rolled up at the sleeves. A glass of whiskey glimmered in his hands, the amber liquid catching the faint glow of the fireplace. His gaze was fixed on the flames, his sharp features as unreadable as ever. The doorbell's sudden chime cut through the quiet. You paused mid-step, brows knitting faintly. Visitors were rare here, especially unannounced. Before you could move, the tall double doors opened and she walked in. Cassie. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble, her every step echoing with practiced confidence. She was dressed to perfection, an elegant black dress that clung to her curves, her long hair cascading like a dark waterfall. A cloud of expensive perfume followed her, suffocatingly sweet, filling the space as if to erase every trace of you. Her lips curved into a radiant smile the moment her eyes found Jungkook. Jungkook, and before you could process it, she rushed forward, flinging her arms around him, the glass in his hand tilted dangerously, but he steadied it effortlessly. His expression didn't shift, no surprise, no warmth, just that same cold, unreadable stare, but he didn't stop her either. You froze where you stood, the side pierced straight through your chest, twisting your heart until it hurt to breathe, yet you refused to crumble. You straightened your spine, nails pressing into your palm until the sting steadied you. Cassie clung to him like you were not even there, her voice dripping with nostalgia. It feels like forever. God, I missed you. Her eyes flicked toward you, a faint smirk tugging at her painted lips as though this was all a performance made for your demonstration. Finally, Jungkook's voice cut through the air, calm, deep, utterly indifferent. What are you doing here, Cassie? She leaned back slightly to meet his gaze, her hand still resting comfortably on his chest. What do you mean? I just wanted to see you. I heard you were back in town. Surely you can't fault me for missing an old friend. The way she sat, friend, made your stomach twist. You clenched your fists by your side but forced your voice to remain steady, composed. Should I bring another glass, Jungkook? It was the only thing you could say. Anything more would reveal the storm building inside. Jungkook's head turned, his dark eyes landing on you. His gaze was sharp, cold, like a warning. No, one is enough. And with that, his attention returned to Cassie. Just like that, you were dismissed. The air grew heavier, your heart pounding in the silence that followed. You stood tall, but inside something was cracking. Kenzie finally pulled away from Jungkook, though her hand lingered on his arm a moment too long. She turned her head slightly, her eyes catching yours with that same smudge clench. So, this is the wife. The words were sugar coated, but the undertone was venom. She tilted her head, giving you a once over as if assessing a piece of furniture rather than a human being. I must admit, Jungkook, you have always had exquisite taste, but this feels different. Quieter, softer, not exactly what I expected from you. Your stomach knotted, but you kept your posture steady, forcing your lips into the faintest polite smile. Would you like something to drink, Cassie? Cassie laughed lightly, a sound that grated against your nerves. How sweet. She's polite, Jungkook, almost too polite. Tell me, does she even know how to keep up with your word? Or do you keep her around because she's harmless? Her words stung, but you held your tongue, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Jungkook sat back on the sofa, sipping his whiskey, saying nothing. His silence was worse than any insults. His refusal to defend you, to acknowledge the cruelty laced in Cassie's tone. Then Cassie reached for the wine bottle on the table. With an elegant flourish, she poured herself a glass and turned to you with a mocking smile. Oh, wine, you don't mind, do you? I'm sure you're used to serving. She lifted the glass, swirled it delicately, and then, whether by accident or design, the deep red liquid sloshed over the rim, spilling across your dress. The crimson stain spread across the pale fabric like that blooming in water. Your breath hitched, you froze, the cool wine seeping into your skin, the humiliation burning hotter than the sting of alcohol. Cassie gasped, dramatically feigning innocence. Oh no, did I do that? I'm so clumsy sometimes. You looked at her, your lips trembling as you forced yourself not to break. It's fine, I'll clean it. Before you could step away, Chunguk's voice cut through the air, sharp and laced with frustration. Enough, you froze, your heart leaping. Maybe, just maybe, he would defend you. But then his eyes locked on you, cold and furious. Do you have to embarrass me in front of guests? Can't you manage even something this simple without making a scene? Your eyes widened, shock stealing the words from your tongue. I didn't. She. His jaw tightened, his patience snapping, and before you could finish, his hand struck your cheek with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent room. Your head jerked to the side, the sting spreading like fire across your skin. For a moment, you couldn't breathe, couldn't think, only the sound of your own heartbeat thundering in your ears. Cassie's lips curved into a smile, her eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. She had won. And Jungkook, your husband, sat there, his hand still hovering in the air, his expression cold and unyielding, as if you were nothing more than a mistake he had just corrected. Cassie's lips curled upward, her smile dripping with cruel satisfaction. She leaned back against the sofa, watching your humiliation like it was the evening's entertainment. Her eyes sparkled with delight as if she had been waiting for this exact moment to see you small, fragile, broken, but you were not. The sting on your cheek burned, your skin throbbing from the force of Chungkook's hand. For a moment, your vision blurred, but not from tears. No, you refused to give her that victory. You refused to let either of them see you crumble. Instead, you straightened. Your palms, steady and shaking, rose before either of them could process what was happening. The sound cracked through the room like lightning. Chungkook's head jerked slightly to the side, the mark of your hand faint against his flawless skin. For the first time, his expression faltered. The mask of the cold, untouchable CEO shattered in sheer disbelief. The room fell silent. Even the fire in the heart seemed to quiet, as though the entire mansion held its breath. Cassie's smart smile vanished. Her eyes widened, stunned, her lips parting in shock. You lowered your hand slowly, your breathing steady, and when you finally spoke, your voice carried no tremor, no hesitation, only cold steel. Don't you ever raise your hand on me again. Not you, not anyone. I'm your wife, Jungkook, not your servant, not your property. I will never let anyone treat me this way, not even you. Your words cut deeper than any slap ever could. Jungkook stared at you, speechless, his pride, his authority, everything he thought untouchable had been challenged in a way he had never experienced. No one had ever dared to defy him until now. Cassie blinked, her shock morphing into something darker, anger, disbelief, even fear. She had expected tears, weakness, maybe even submission. She had not expected defiance. And Jungkook, he sat frozen, his chest rising and falling heavily, his glass of whiskey still clenched in his hand but forgotten. For the first time, his mask cracked, and behind his silence was something dangerous. Something unsettled, but you didn't wait for his reaction. You stood tall, your dignity intact, your eyes meeting his. The silence you left behind was louder than any argument. The echo of your slap still lingered in the air, hanging heavy in the silence. Jungkook's expression was unreadable, torn between rage and shock, while Cassie's smirk had long vanished. You lifted your chin higher, your voice laced with a cold fire that neither of them expected. I always knew you were cool, Jungkook, but I didn't know you were weak enough to hide behind someone else's cruelty. A man who can't even defend his own wife doesn't deserve to be called a husband. Your words struck him harder than the slap. His jaw tightened, his eyes burning, yet he said nothing. Then your gaze turned to Cassie. You studied her with a calm that unsettled her more than anger ever could. And you, Cassie, you walk in here flaunting yourself like some cheap shadow of his past, desperate to feel relevant. Do you really think a woman who has to humiliate another just to feel powerful in what in vain you are pathetic? Cassie's lips parted, her face flushing red. She opened her mouth to retort, but no words came. You had stabbed her away in a single breath. You didn't wait for a reply. You didn't need to. Without another glance at either of them, you turned on your heel. Your steps were steady, elegant, every click of your heels against the marble floor ringing like a declaration of victory. You didn't argue further, you didn't scream, you didn't cry. You simply walked away with your dignity intact, leaving the poison of the room behind you. Chunguk remained seated, glass of whiskey forgotten in his grip. His chest rose and fell, fury simmering in his eyes, but beneath it something far more dangerous stirred. For the first time, he felt it guilt, respect, and a gnawing fear of what it meant to lose you. Cassie shifted uncomfortably beside him, her earlier delight now replaced with silent humiliation. But Jungkook barely saw her anymore. His gaze lingered on the door you had just walked through, his mind reeling with the weight of what had just happened, and you, your head held high, did not look back. That night, you left the mansion and drove straight to your mother's house, the only place where warmth still existed for you. The ache in your chest was unbearable, but so was the strength in your stride. You had finally taken your stand, and nothing would erase it.